So what did you do prior? I'm interested in the 10-year-old Tom Pippins and what you did. What was your thinking then? And did you know early on, and where did you grow up and how did you get in broadcasting?
Yeah, great question, Jim. Thank you for that. Well,
Yes.
I grew up in upstate New York, suburban Syracuse. I was born in New Jersey, but at 2.5, the family came to upstate New York. And from day one, it seemed I absolutely loved sports.
Mm.
I was the guy who used to say a prayer in class during the day that the weather would hold off so we could play the Little League game at night. That's how crazy I was. And here's what, Jim, I haven't told this to a lot of people. When you remember growing up in the neighborhood back in the day
Oh my
when there
God.
weren't so many sports,
Baseball from 8 a.m. till dusk.
you got it. That's it.
Running
That's
bases,
yep,
500, whatever it
yep.
took.
Exactly. Today hockey, basketball. I love it. The grandkids
Baseball was
following
all I
around.
had.
But back then there was something pure about it. You didn't lock the doors. You came home to eat and go to the bathroom and back out you were, as you said it. And at one point, I wanted to play so much.
Yeah.
We'd have 5 or 6 guys. We needed a couple more for a game, and somebody would say, "Well, I'll play if Bill will play. I'll play if Jim will play." And back in the day, I don't know, you're about 10 years younger, but I think you might recall they had those comic books and they would have lighted stadiums, Little League stadiums. I think the idea was to hopefully have people buy for leagues or whatever. Had I
Yeah.
said, my dad's going to build this stadium if you guys will play ball. So
Wow.
there's one I have to ask forgiveness for, right?
Wow.
Lying
But
through my teeth.
Paschke
Anything
said,
just to play the game.
you know this though, but Paschke said his first indoctrination was some guy asked him to work at the county at the stadium in Minnesota, the World Series. So
Oh,
here he is, a 14-year-old kid working as an usher or whatever. You didn't even know that?
no, I didn't.
As a
This is good stuff
14-year-old
you've
kid,
unearthed.
he was working in World Series. He worked the next year. And I'm so jealous of you for knowing sports was your thing.
And kept trying to get Gorman Thomas, and by
Yeah.
God, he wouldn't. He kept saying no, no to the camera person who was kind
Oh,
enough to be the producer type, and then one day I saw him out there. He goes, "Tom Pippins from ESPN. If you'd have told me that, I'd have sat there with you all day long." But it's just, I remember. I don't know if I should tell this one,
yes,
but
you should.
we'll keep it
Whatever it
real,
is,
right?
say it.
We'll keep it real. This was actually just before my dad's death.
Mhm.
It was that winter. It was the baseball caravan. You remember after the '82
Sure,
season, every year they had, and it was, I think, at the Pfister, and had
sure.
a great time. Well, now look, now I can't even. So what happened was
Now
after
it's going the other way.
exactly, I think when I breathe, it's my breath.
You've got to get your grandkids in to fix
Yeah, exactly right.
I
You're
can do what
right.
I can't do.
Right, you are. Because it's distracting. I apologize to you
No,
and
you're fine. It
everybody
makes it
watching.
fun, Tom. Makes it fun.
But somehow, after it was all over, Robin Yount, Charlie Moore, and myself, and one other, I can't remember. I think a Brewers player, or maybe in the front office, PR or something. It wasn't Mario or wasn't Sky.
Greenberg? No, it was.
Uh,
Yeah.
we we ended up what was Ray Jackson's. We were at Ray Jackson's. Remember Ray
Oh,
Jackson's?
that I don't. And I know
That was
most
a very
places.
popular. It's not far or wasn't far. I'm not sure if it's in existence
I
anymore.
know. I know most
That
places.
was the popular hangout.
Never heard of that one.
We got out and it was really late.
You
And
knew
we,
Harvey Keene owned a joint, didn't you?
pardon me?
Harvey Keene owned a bar.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
I
I
mean,
just wanted.
astute
I learned
man.
that from his son. Go
And
ahead.
that's why, yeah, yes. And I think back to your point, the question, I think that's what I learned the most, that, people are so good here. These are, I mean, you go to New York City or other
Right.
large, not always, it's not always the case. But in this case, everybody I talked to and got to know a little bit, I'm not saying best buddies type of thing, but I loved them
Yeah.
all brewers.
I think Milwaukee did. I think Milwaukee did.
Yes,
You know,
yes,
and what I
agree.
love is the little nuance that Caldwell, I think, walked around with a briefcase. I think it was Caldwell. You know what he had in it? A jar of ketchup. Herman told me this. All he would do in the briefcase is have ketchup. If that doesn't tell you about these guys, and I've heard stories, and Gar was telling me, I think yeah, Gar was telling me, I forget who was the coach that he told me. But anyway, do you know who was the coach that year when Robin got his 3,000s? Do you remember those? Anyway, it
Was it? Let's see. I don't know if it
it
was Treb or not, or
wasn't Treb. It was, anyway.
Ken Maka. I don't
Get
know.
to hear these inside stories, and a lot of them are, Johnny won't, tell them publicly. But I feel so lucky to have that, connection with these intimate stories because one of my favorite baseball stories is I was laying on the couch and my wife says, "There's a Don Sutton on the phone."
Oh.
Oh, and
Another really kind man.
oh
Yeah.
my God,
Gentleman.
he was a
Yeah.
good kid too,
Yeah.
But to have these experiences that, to deal with these guys, Ted Simmons, what a bright guy. And how fortunate am I to have peeked into this,
Very bright. Yes.
to have seen this where guys would give their right arm to
Yeah.
be leaning on the batting cage, talking.
Which you could do back then,
Oh
right,
my
Jim? You
God.
don't allow that anymore.
Tom, you're going to think I'm a real dork, but I write song lyrics. I mean, I wrote, Len Casper had a band, and Tom, Mozart used to say the songs just come to him, it's God or whatever. So did Billy Joel, believe it or not. And I would write these songs in 15 minutes and he'd record them. And I wrote a song, I wrote a whole, we'll talk about this sometime. I wrote 6 or 7 songs about County Stadium. I wrote one about the Loge. I wrote one about the day that after JFK was assassinated, they wrote an article about whether they should play or not. I wrote an article about batting cages. I'll send them to you if you don't think they're too corny.
Please, I'd love
No,
that.
I mean, my nephew has a very odd voice, but I think that you'll appreciate the effort, Tom. You'll
Yeah.
appreciate the effort because I have one about being in the Loge. I just have this font of energy for creativity. And even this night that I hope somehow you can make it, people have said to me, the 13th of March, why I why do I people I don't know if you know I wrote On Story Parkway. Are you familiar with
No,
that?
no, I didn't
Come on,
know.
Tom.
Tell me a little about it.
My Amazon best-selling book,
Oh my
On
gosh.
Story Parkway, Remembering County Stadium. How do you not know this?
This
I
is
was on every
amazing.
station in
It
town.
had to be, it got some local How long ago did you write it?
Oh, 4 years. But
Oh, okay.
the other
After.
thing is, not a Milwaukee. It's not going to do anything. Dan Plesac was going to mention it on his MLB show, and out of Milwaukee, it doesn't mean anything. But I can't tell you the outpouring of nostalgia. So, unbeknownst to me, I arranged this thing for the 13th. And Tom, it's 25 years since we left County Stadium. A
Amazing.
quarter of a century has
Yes.
passed, and
Yeah.
not one person has formulated a reunion of all the media. And I did it.
It's a
I'm an
beautiful thing.
outsider. I
It's
don't
a
even,
beautiful
I'm
thing.
not from here. I don't belong in the midst of Milwaukee press corps. I've got Zeno, I've got, Larry Baldessaro's coming, Susan Szymanski, Timmy will be there, a lot of radio guys. And it's just weird and why me? They're thanking me, and I don't know where it comes from, Tom.
It goes back to what we were saying before. But you talk about the county stadium. We were at the last game, I think, and my son was, mind you, my son now is 32. He's about
Right, right.
6'2" and 230.
He was
I used
only
to
like
carry him on
5
my
then.
shoulders.
Was he
Now he would
5 years
come.
old then? Right, 4 or 5.
Me?
He was only
Yeah,
four
he
or
was
five.
maybe 6 or 7, and he
My
cried.
daughter was. That's why I missed it because my daughter was born.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Wow,
missed
that's
all that.
that's a good excuse. He was crying, and he
I
said,
can't
"Dad,
believe you don't know about my book.
right? No,
Oh my
I
gosh.
need to get familiar with it. I need to get familiar with it." So he was crying. He said, "Dad, why? Why do they have to tear this great old stadium?" I said, "And the
It was a
memories."
dump.
I said, "Or, but yeah, right. You had rats in the clubhouse and everything
It was a
else."
dump. But you know what Doug Russell and I say? It was our dump.
Yes,
Like they
that's
say, my brother may be a jerk, but you can't call him a jerk. Oh,
That's right.
call him
Yeah, yeah. You remember Davy Lopes, of course, and
a
I
jerk.
like Davy. I know he didn't necessarily
He didn't
get
like
along.
the press, but
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But we managed to hit it off. We met headed, but yeah, at one point he talked about. He says they got to get rid of that. He said my sinuses are killing me.